Converting clients is not about upselling, and ending a service is not a failure. Both are about leadership, clarity, and protecting the long-term health of your business and your team. Welcome to Pet Sitter Confessional. I'm Megan.
I'm Colin.
We appreciate you listening today, wherever in the world you are. We would also like to thank our Patreon supporters and Pet Sitters Associates for sponsoring today's episode. Think about if there's ever been a time that you have tried to convert clients to new services. How did it go? Did you succeed? Were they not interested in it? We do have this unspoken fear of trying new things. Have you ever had this conversation with yourself? Well, we know this service isn't working anymore, but we don't want to lose the revenue. And obviously, we really don't want to lose the client. Well, we certainly have had that conversation. We have cut out, over the 14 years that we've been in business, we have cut out overnights. That was many, many years ago. And then we cut out boarding and daycare a few years ago. And that was a very big learning experience, to say the least. But there have been several times where we have tried to get clients over to this new service that we're offering. And this often shows up most with, again, overnights and daycare style services, or, anything that's high touch and high emotion and low margin, where it's just not working for your business anymore. Here's the thing, though. You're not choosing between keeping clients or protecting your business. You're choosing whether you'll lead your clients through the change or let fear decide for you.
Basically, you already have the no before you try. And many times we can think, well, I don't want to make them angry, or I don't want to risk a bad review, or I don't want to upset them. And so we just stop and we don't do anything, and we just kind of quietly let it die on the vine, or we do things way too abruptly, meaning that we end up actually upsetting them more because we didn't try and have a conversation with them when we really should have.
Or we do start offering this new service, but we keep the old service around for some very special clients who we don't want to rock the boat and upset them. Or we think it's not that much of a pain, so I'll just hang on to them until they move away or their pets no longer need us.
Well, and it's important, I think, that we distinguish the two reasons why we need to convert clients, because there are two scenarios where this happens. The first one is that sometimes we need to convert a client to a new service because the one that they're using is a bad fit for them, and they just don't see it. Think of this as maybe clients who love the 15-minute potty let out or the 20-minute quick break that you've providing them, but you really see that it's hard to get everything done in that. Or maybe their dogs aren't responding well to in and out really fast. Or maybe the cat is really wanting to engage more in that time, but the client isn't seeing it, and you're seeing problems come up from that.
Or it can work the other way, too. You're providing an hour-long walk and the dog is getting older or not able to walk as much and kind of limping. And so you're needing to pull the service back. But the client is insisting of, no, I really need Fluffy walk for an hour. She absolutely loves her walks with you, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, so there's that part where it's a bad fit for them. They just don't quite know it yet. And then we need to convert other times. We need to convert those clients to a new service because it's a bad fit for us.
And I feel like this is most of the time.
Right.
Of these two scenarios, this is more common of we are burned out of doing overnights and we are just cutting them out as of 2026. Or our own dog or cat at home is getting geriatric and we're needing to spend more time with them, so we're not able to commit as much to the business anymore.
Or maybe you've run the numbers of your business and you're looking at your profit per service. And if you are not calculating this on a per service basis, I cannot recommend this highly enough, because you will quickly find that there are the services that take up 80% of your time and only make up 20% of your revenue. And when you look at this, all of a sudden you start thinking of, well, if I didn't spend my time doing those, and if I spent my time doing my high profit services, well, what could I actually do? And how would that change my business operations? So it's all sorts of these things of maybe I'm burned out, maybe I'm trying to make more money in my business, or maybe I'm trying to change the schedule for my employees that I have. And so I've got to stop doing these things that are these big emotional heavy investments, but that just don't pay out at the end, but clients still love them. And so we have to be able to walk through both of these scenarios. And in that, it's important to point out that clients don't always ask for service changes for many different reasons. It could be that they don't know what you offer. And this is a big one because many times we bring on clients for pet sitting or for dog walking or for overnights or for daycare in our home. And we don't then talk to them about anything else that we do. And so they see no reason to ask because they only see us as a kind of a one-trick pony of, well, that's the daycare person or that's the overnight person. So I'm good. And they also don't ask about services change because they might not see the issue at all. They might not see what's going on. And this is really common as well because who is experiencing the actual service? The pet. The client gets the report. They see the videos, they see the photos. And if those don't tell the full story, or if we aren't upfront, or if the client isn't asking particular questions, they will see no need to ask to change anything. Again, people don't have a problem until they have a problem, until they experience that friction. So our job here is to really notice the friction in the service, in what's going on before the client leaves, before they move on, before we burn out. If we don't have our pulse on the friction for both them and for us, that's where this all falls apart. And then we have to be bold enough to come forward and actually have that conversation with them about why the change needs to happen. And so we want to walk through several different strategies and different applications here for trying to convert a client, an existing client, to a new service. Again, whether it's for them being a bad fit for a service or for it being a bad fit for you.
This also comes into play when you have a dog or a cat experiencing fear, anxiety, and stress, and that exhibits itself as baring teeth or low growling or lunging at you, and you don't really report this until there's a bite. And that's why it's so important to document everything so you can go back and say, hey, 3 weeks ago, I was noticing some changes and they've been escalating ever since then.
Yeah, that escalation is so key. I'm glad you brought that up, Megan, because we were just putting together some information about anxiety in the home and things like that. And one of these key things is, reach out for help if you see something increasing in frequency, in duration, or intensity. Those three big things there. And if we aren't communicating, again, the client's going to have no idea. And so we can come alongside them and say, here's how I've charted this out. Here's my documented evidence and conversation that you and I have been having over the past 3-4 months, or however long it's been. And it's getting more and more difficult to do the walk. It could be that the dog is becoming more anxious and fearful around walks because it's always trash day when you're there. And all of a sudden you are having a really hard time with doing that walk on trash day. And you need to change the service to just backyard play, or you need to change the service to something else or a different day. And that conversation doesn't happen. It can't happen unless we speak up.
So strategy number 1 here is converting by solving a friction point, not by promoting a service.
And this is really because service names are pretty ambiguous. They don't mean the same thing from one person to another. And sometimes people just use a term because they think that's what's standard. So most clients are not just begging and asking for drop-ins instead of overnights, or overnights instead of drop-ins, or walks instead of daycare. There's a pain point, there's a friction point that they have in their life that they're trying to solve. So that could be less stress, it could be more predictability, or fewer complications in their life. And so if you've got overnight clients, it may be time to transition them to drop-ins if the client is experiencing or having guilt about having someone stay in their home overnight. When we used to do overnights, this was actually a talking point for many people of, well, I don't want to bother you with this, and I know this is a lot to ask, and I could probably blah, 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 blah. At that point, Megan and I should have looked the person in the eye and said, it sounds like drop-ins may actually be better for you because we don't have to stay here overnight, so you don't even have to worry about that. Maybe there's an issue about inconsistent sleep schedules, and this falls to us as the sitters, where it's hard on us. It's okay if we have that conversation with the client to make that transition and bring in that friction and that pain point. And then also, clients may just openly admit that their pets sleep through the night anyway, so it really isn't that big of a deal. We've certainly had these conversations before. This is a piece of evidence that tells you that the overnight isn't necessary, and that instead we can point them in a different direction that's better for everybody involved. But it takes listening to these in the conversation. It takes kind of reading between the lines and asking good questions.
Specifically for the overnights, maybe you raise your price to a level that makes it worth it for you to get out of your bed and go sleep in somebody else's bed. Or you may even think about implementing a X number night stay. That's what hotels do, minimum 2-night stay. If it's further away for you, maybe a minimum 4-night stay where, okay, now it is worth it for me to disrupt my sleep for 4 nights rather than just one night coming and going.
Well, I think what this points out here is that regardless of what service you start at, and regardless of where you're trying to go, the important piece is that both you and the client have a part in the conversation. If it's no longer working for you, bring up those pain points to them and see if you can go back and forth and get to a final point that works for everybody. Otherwise, you'll burn out or they could be unhappy and have this guilt that they're building up over time and they just stop using you. And this is true for even if you have a daycare clients that you may be wanting to transition to walk. So there's drop-off logistics. If you find clients that are complaining about this and it's hard to fit in their schedule and they're barely on time most days, have a conversation with them. Hey, it looks like this time really isn't working for you. Maybe if we just did midday walks, or maybe if we did 2 walks for you, that may fit in better with your schedule so you wouldn't have to rush around so much. There's also the conversation around overstimulation, and this is going to depend on what kind of daycare you're running and what kind of pets and dogs you're allowing into that and how you manage all of those things. But again, when these come up in conversation and that word overstimulation comes up, or maybe you notice that this is happening in the dog, of this dog gets way overstimulated here and it's uncomfortable for everybody involved and actually could be a potential safety issue for the other dogs and the people here, I need to take that to the client and say, this is an issue that we're seeing. The way I want to move forward with this is by offering you midday walks. And that's going to do XYZ for you. Same thing with illness and injury concerns. This is a conversation that a lot of pet owners have of what about all the illnesses? What about the injuries in the large play groups? Well, client, if that's a big concern for you, and I hear you and I'm listening to this, we can offer you walks. We can offer you adventure hikes where it's just one-on-one kind of time that you have together. That also makes it easier on your logistics and you don't have to worry about overstimulation. So all these things come in together.
The key thing here is if you lead with the service, it's going to feel like a sales pitch of, well, I have this awesome new thing and you should definitely try it because I don't really like this.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Or I'm trying to get rid of this other service. So please buy this new one. I promise it's really great. But if you lead with the problem, it feels like care. I understand that Fluffy is getting older and is not able to walk as far anymore. And because I want the best for Fluffy, and I know you do too, here is a new care plan that we can go with.
Well, and that leads straight into strategy 2. You can convert using your observational authority. Your superpower is that you've actually been there. You've been in the client's home, you have hands on the dog or the cat, you've seen them, you have videos, you've had all this personal connection. So when we get to use language like what I've observed, or based on the visit notes that I have, or what we consistently see in your pet each time that we're over, this gives you the credibility to speak to that client and say, here is proof positive of the issues that we're seeing. So even things like, hey, your dog settles down after the last visit and just sleeps through the night. Let's say you're doing overnights and what you see is at 8 p.m., that dog curls up in its bed and lays down. And then you're just kind of sitting around going, what do I do now? And that dog doesn't get back up until 7 or 8 the next morning and where it needs to go out. What a wonderful point to bring to the client and say, your dog settles down at 8 p.m. and doesn't need to go back out until the next morning. What I'd like to recommend for you is actually just doing a late night visit and an early morning visit, and then we can do some midday playtime for you as well. This gives you credibility and authority and is part of that conversation with the client. You're not trying to force anything. You're saying, here is what I am seeing. You may also say something like, we see better regulation with your dog on days where we have structured walks instead of group care. Meaning, we offer daycare and your dog really has a hard time regulating itself and it's uncomfortable and it's kind of dangerous for everybody involved. When we've done the walk, though, your dog is fantastic, really well behaved, and is like gold star plus double good. Again, you can say, here's it in this scenario, here's it in this scenario, and here's the difference that we see. These are not opinions. What these are professional observations. as we partner with the client for the best care outcomes for the pet, this is what that means.
Speaking of outcomes, it is important to redefine the outcome. Change what good care means. Clients cling to services because of what they think the service guarantees. So your role is to redefine that success, redefine what it looks like to have exceptional care. So if their overnight belief is someone sleeping here equals safety, the new outcome is the pets get consistent routines and they get multiple daily touch points. Isn't that awesome? For the daycare belief, okay, well, you have a tired dog, that equals a good dog. That's not necessarily the case. So we reframe that and we say the new outcome is a regulated, decompressed dog. You're changing the client's mindset here of going, well, this thing that we have been doing for a while, it was working and now it's not working. And we need to change it because of whatever reason. But the outcome is actually going to be a better, more regulated pet or well-adjusted pet. When the outcome changes, the service choice becomes obvious. Oh, well, I don't want this negative thing that my pet has been experiencing. I want something better for them.
Well, and it's really just talking about the care that the pet is getting. And I like how you phrase that, Megan, of when the outcome changes, the service becomes obvious. That way, we're not having to sell and feel like we're stiff-arming or strong-arming the client into any one particular thing. We open it up and say, look, if this is where we want to go, if you really are after safety, let's talk about multiple daily touch points with your pet and the home. Let's talk about these multiple updates and these hands and eyes and consistency of schedule for safety of the pet. It gives you also talking points to now take that and turn it into and guide really where you're headed with this.
Strategy number 4 for converting clients to a new service is offering a low-risk trial. Reduce that switching cost, reduce that friction of, I understand that this is a change and change is hard. We may not want to embrace it at times, but here is an offer, a trial period of where we can go down this road and see how it works out. Clients fear disruption more than price. We've had clients before say, I am so glad that I found you because switching from pet sitter to pet sitter, or even trying to coordinate care between this neighbor and that neighbor and my daughter staying home, it's just too much. So I am so glad that I now have a consistent option. I understand that you're costly, but it is worth it because I have a one-stop shop that is just going to solve all of my problems forever.
And what you're going for here is this low risk. So maybe you have a client who's going out of town and they're leaving for 14 days and they want you to stay for overnights. Instead of trying to initially and upfront say, okay, maybe we don't do overnights, but I just convert everything to drop-ins right away and do 14 days of drop-ins. That's a big chunk to ask for that client to bite into when they've never experienced that. So instead, offer to replace just one of the overnights with an evening visit and a morning visit. Have it be kind of the midpoint just to test and see how it's going. And then you have plenty of time on the back end to settle in and make sure everything is going well. But this takes you communicating a lot on the front end, documenting. And then what's it like when you come back? How are the pets behaving? What's the home like? So that the client has that surety and clarity on exactly how it went.
And it'll also give them peace of mind of, this was scary. I was nervous to try this thing, but it ended up working out. Or, it could go the other way of, well, this didn't actually work out like we wanted to, but that's the important part of the documenting of the client will have peace of mind, whether it did work out or it didn't work out. And then you can have further conversations from there.
Yeah. If you have somebody who's really dedicated to doing daycare with you and they are a 5-day-a-week client and you're really trying to get out of that, or maybe their dog isn't a good fit for daycare anymore because things that they've developed and things like that. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to convert your 5-day-a-week daycare to 5 daily dog walks starting next week, instead say, what if on Thursdays we try a walk? And I'll do 2 at first and we'll see how they do and see how they're regulating. Again, frame this as a test, data gathering, observation. There's no commitment for this. We just want to see and test and see if this is actually a good fit.
While a moment ago I said that clients fear disruption more than price, there is a price conversation to be had here because multiple drop-ins are typically more expensive than an overnight and multiple walks are more expensive than daycare. So there is going to have to be a conversation of maybe for that trial, you offer it at a discounted price just so they can get their feet wet and they can see, okay, this thing isn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And most importantly, my pets were okay.
Well, because in that point, you always want to be confronting one dissension, one pushback at a time. If you try and get them from something they're nervous about and something that's more costly, well, then they have two reasons to not go with you. So if you can knock one of those down and trial it, this really helps them see that maybe this can actually work and this may be worth the price. And again, this is all how it's framed and communicated to them. But in anything that you do as a business, I'm really glad you brought that up, Megan, because anything you do as a business, confront one Goliath at a time. Confront one thing so that you can have focused communication, focused problem solving and talking points, instead of trying to feel like you're trying to get your hands around this big monstrous thing that just is unwieldy. It's too chaotic for you. It's messy and confusing for the client, and nobody comes out good on the other end.
Well, in that way, another metaphor, the client has to climb a hill instead of a mountain in order to use this new service.
Right.
When you talk about framing and positioning, that is strategy number 5. So position yourself as a guide, not as a vendor, not as a service provider, but as an expert. We talk all the time about writing blogs so that you can be the expert at dog walks and pet sitting. But this is where the trust really compounds. When you use language that the client can empathize with, that they understand, when you say, things like as pets age or as schedules change or long term, this tends to work better. Or in my experience, clients with this problem have seen this result. You're not necessarily reacting, you're more anticipating. You're saying, from my experience as a dog walker and pet sitter, I have seen this outcome over the years.
And what you're doing here as a guide, you are, as the story brand framework would say, you're making the client the hero of that journey. You're pointing out the problem, and then you're pointing out the possible solutions for them to take and how to move forward with this. This means that they are more likely to agree to that when they see themselves as the hero. And all you are the person standing there going, hey, I know we've got problems like this, when long term, these things tend to work out better in situations like this, meaning that person can pick that up and make that decision for themselves, which is going to be way more powerful than you trying to be that vendor, that person hawking your wares, trying to force this onto them. When we view ourselves as a guide, it also means it's easier for us to have these conversations because I'm not sales pitching them. I'm not trying to boost my numbers or anything. I'm genuinely taking my profession, my expertise, and translating it into real world outcomes for the person and their pet.
Now, there is a time where we are trying to genuinely get out of a service and we're saying, okay, well, here, I'm going to help you transition, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. So there does have to be, we're not trying to be deceptive to the client here, but we are trying to reframe it in their mind that there are alternatives to what they're currently doing. Something you should care a lot about is having amazing insurance. As a pet sitter, you know how much trust goes into caring for someone's furry family member, but who's got your back? For over 25 years, Pet Sitters Associates has been helping pet care pros like you with affordable, flexible insurance coverage. Whether you're walking dogs, pet sitting, or just starting out, they make it easy to protect your business. Get a free quote at petsitllc.com. As a listener, you get $10 off your membership when you use the code Confessional at checkout. That's petsitllc.com, because your peace of mind is part of great pet care. I had just briefly mentioned about what to do when you are wanting to end a service, so now let's deep dive into that. We have to say the quiet part out loud here. Sometimes you don't want to convert a service, and that is okay. It's your business. You can do what you want. When a conversion is really about ending your service and you want to stop offering it, it's important to communicate that to clients. So the common one, classic one that we've seen over the past few years is ending overnights. The mistake here is apologizing for it. I am sorry. I really need to be home with my own pets, and I really don't, I love Fluffy, and I really don't want to end the service, but I have to. I'm so sorry. Sometimes we start negotiating with clients of if they're traveling for 14 days and they want us to do every other night or every third night at their house, just so their dog has someone sometimes. We may even start making exceptions of, well, I like these clients, or I like these homes. They make me feel comfortable and safe. So I'll just do the overnights for them, and everybody else I'm going to say no to. So the reality is, if this doesn't work for you, then you just need to cut it out whole cloth. Don't make exceptions exceptions. I know it can be really difficult when you have some seriously long-term clients and clients that have been really good to you. But if it's really draining to you, if it's mentally taxing of getting out of your own comfortable bed and sleeping in somebody else's, then it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and there are operational things to consider with, especially overnights, but also if you do boarding and daycare and things like that. Like, you do have to take into account boundaries and consistency and sustainability and all of these things. And too often we hedge our bets, like Megan said, where we apologize, where we say, I'm really sorry. This is just something that I've been thinking about. And we kind of word vomit on people. And then what that means is that we start backing out of this. And that's really where we get into strategy 6 here of you have to decide internally first. You have to decide for yourself first and be firm about this. Because if you are unsure, clients will be too. They can smell it on you when you're having that conversation with them. And here's the key mind frame that you have to take into this. You must believe that when you are making this shift in services, that whatever you're shifting to, that this is no longer how we deliver our best care. Whatever you're shifting away from, that's what you have to believe about it. This is no longer the standard of care that we are going to be offering.
Because it's true. Clients have come to know this service. They love this service. They don't want anything else. They're not asking for anything else. And you're ripping it away. So of course they're going to come and say, well, can you just make an exception for me and Fluffy? She really loves you. And they're going to play on your emotional heartstrings. And it's going to be really hard to have a thick backbone and go, no, this is what is best for me and my company. I appreciate and I love Fluffy very much. This is what I need to do.
When we stopped offering overnights and when we stopped offering boarding and daycare, it was this strong conviction that just cemented itself in Megan's and my mind of those are no longer how we deliver our best care. We firmly believe that the best care that we provide are drop-ins and daily dog walks, managed as a team of employees. Like we just went hard down that road, because if we had just sat, because it's true that when we got out of the boarding and daycare stuff, we were tired of it. We were burned out. We were so done with it. And if we had just sat in that would have come across as not good to our clients. It would not have gone well. So having those strong convictions about this and how you are going to stick to your guns and stick to your boundaries is really what you have to decide first before you even think about changing. Stand on that firm foundation so that when those questions come, when they start to argue, when they start to try and bargain with you and they ask for exceptions, you can stand firm on saying, that is no longer the quality and standard that I believe in. This is where my convictions lie.
And it is important to announce that change. And that is something that we could have definitely done a lot better on. Yeah, your social media posts, your email campaigns, your software, whatever and however you use to communicate with clients, that is where you need to be talking about this. So do not say, we're thinking about ... changing this service to become this, or we're thinking about getting rid of this. Also don't say, for most clients ... These are convictionless posts. You want to, again, stand firm in this. Instead, say, beginning on X date, January 1st, 2026, we will no longer offer overnights. We have enjoyed them. We appreciate the clients. Here is now what we are doing instead.
And how it helps you and benefits you, and then focus back on the client for how that is going to be helpful to them. And like Megan said, do this early, do this often, reach out to specific clients that you know may have concerns or may have been your longest term client so that you can have that personal communication with them to guide them through that. This is all about holding high standards for your business and yourself. And the thing about standards is that they build trust. When we set where this is going to be, we draw that line in the sand, clients can clearly see where our business is and where our business is not. That builds trust because they know we're predictable in how we're going to react and respond. Exceptions invite negotiation. They invite questioning, and they actually breed distrust. When we start to say things like, well, for most clients, some clients will experience blah, blah, blah. Well, how'd you pick that client versus not me? Am I in the group? Why did that happen? When are you going to make this decision? How do I get in the group? What's that look like? All that just starts circling and swirling. It's clear, it's kind, it's defined, and it's forward to the clients when you communicate with them.
This is pretty easily done when you're about to cut out a zip code or a service area.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you live there, so no more. That's pretty pretty easily defined of, well, there's not a whole lot for them to switch to because they have to move into your current zip code in order to be serviced, but that is at least well defined. When we talk about announcing the change, we often think about pricing and doing that and making sure we don't vomit on people and justify our price. Well, the same thing goes here of we don't want to say we're tired of this service because we've stayed in clients' homes that are dirty and we just don't want to be doing that anymore. Or whatever your reasoning is, you don't have to justify why you're eliminating a service or changing a service to your clients. You just kind of want to stick to the facts.
Well, and in that process, part of the eighth strategy here is to always provide the replacement path. That's what we've been leading to. Okay, we're being clear, we're being forward, we have the delineated path, and we know exactly what is and is not going to happen. You must build a bridge. When we are trying to convert clients from one service to another, it is not enough to just say, well, I'm not doing X anymore, and leave it at that. Right? We did this multiple times when we shifted services, when we went from overnights to drop-ins. Now you have to start talking about evening routine visits, feeding regimes. You can start talking about how it fits in with the client's daily schedule, that late night potty break if needing, the early morning visits, optional midday care. Paint the picture for them for what this is actually going to look like and how it fits in with what's going on and what it's going to fit with the clients and their pet's actual schedule. What this does is this reframes that service, and that's what we want to do. We don't want to make it seem like, well, you had the premium service, and this is the second rate. This is the cut rate service. But that's that communication that we're having to work with. I've got to work with them to kind of redefine some of their terms and preconceived notions that they may have, because we want to come across as well-designed, intentional, professional, high-end. It's not less care. It's actually individually crafted visits to specifically meet their needs at the needed and desired times.
If you don't show the client what's on the other side of the mountain, they're probably not going to climb it with you. They're going to be more scared, more afraid, more reclusive, not show you how they're feeling and what they're processing and what they're thinking. So that's why it is important to give them more of a roadmap, because we want to guide them on the way.
Well, and this is especially true, for any kind of service change, but if you are converting, maybe if you're trying to get out of pet sitting and go to dog walking only, and you want to try and preserve those clients, well, a lot of the pet sitting clients, well, technically, if you did a midday visit, that's a midday dog walk, right? So you have a lot of connection point with the client there too, where you can say, I can still service this routine. And actually, here's a recommendation for another company or other people who can do the morning and evening. And that preserves that connection to you. You're still solving the problem and you're working collaboratively with others.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether a pet is needing a different service and the client may not agree, or you are trying to convert to a different service and ending a service entirely. Some clients are going to leave, and we just have to accept that. It's not a fun thing to think about, even with prices. Some clients are going to leave. They're not going to be happy with our business. This is especially true if you are taking away an entire segment of your client list. You're getting rid of pet sitting and going only to dog walking, or you're getting rid of all dogs and going strictly to cats. Clients are going to leave your business. That's going to be no matter what you do. They may even move away, and it's nobody's fault. It happens. Some clients want overnight presence or want a daycare for the hours that it provides, and so they won't convert. Some are no longer aligned with your mission or have differing beliefs that you've spoken up about, and they just don't agree, so they're going to leave. But this does not mean that you have failed or you have made a wrong decision. If you need more peace of mind in your life, and that's by going cat only, then that's what you need to do.
Because the truth is that revenue, that money that requires you to betray your model, your convictions, your operations that you need to do, if it requires that you betray all of those things, it will eventually cost more than it brings in. It's going to cost your sanity, probably your personal health. It's going to cost you in burnout. It's going to cost you in everything that you've had to sacrifice to get there. It's also going to limit your potential for what you want to do and what you can take on. The costs of you operating outside of what you want to do that break your model, break your convictions, break whatever this is, like just for the pursuit of money, will cost you more in the end. And when we really start to understand that balance and what we're really giving up, that's what gives us a lot of power and surety in our own lives. It's what leads to those strong decisions. It's what leads to those good discussions. And it's what's going to lead you to stand firm when those clients come to you and they have those concerns and they don't follow you. When Megan and I converted away from our services, we had very few clients that went with us to our new drop-in services that we were offering. Several people were upset about this. They felt let down by us no longer offering the service that they thought was the absolute best and total premium thing, and they just couldn't get behind where we were moving. They were no longer aligned with us, and Megan and I had to just look at that and go, it is for the betterment of us, our business, and our family to go in this direction. And if I have to do it without that client, that's what I have to do.
The common thread here is to have the resolve that the choice that you made is the one that's best. And, we were talking about ending a service here and yes, resolve in that, but also where you are saying, okay, your dog can no longer handle a 60-minute walk.
Yeah.
They are 12 years old and they really need to go down to a 30-minute. Or you're making some other personal recommendation that is really, again, aligns with what you believe is best, your professional opinion, and the client is not okay with that.
And you just have to accept that it doesn't matter how much education you do, how many emails you send, how many text messages, how many in-persons. If that person is really not convinced about what you're trying to do and what you are saying is best, there's nothing you can do about that. And you have to walk away. And that is not comfortable all of the time. And that's really, really difficult because then what happens is that we step back in and we go, I'll continue to do this because I don't want someone else to do this the wrong way. And then we hook ourselves back in. And at that point, it's going, well, where were those strong convictions that made you want to bring this up in the first place anyway? If we're willing to compromise for the sake of just so that somebody else doesn't mess it up, that's a very dangerous place to be, especially as a professional business.
I feel like there's a lot of tie-ins here with what we talk about with policies and procedures and implementing those and having a strong backbone and setting your prices and raising prices and being okay when clients leave. Like it all ties into the bigger business picture here of you have to do what you feel is best for your business.
But again, we can't be surprised when clients don't come along for that ride. If I'm 100% pet sitting and I say tomorrow I'm going to be dog walking, it's no surprise that those people that I'm not going to bring over 100% of those clients because it's not a good fit. It's not solving the problem that those clients need. If they only need you for vacation care and they've never asked, they have no interest and they don't want, you can try and talk to them about it. You can, do the pitch, work through some of these strategies for how to still stay involved and connected. But at the end of the day, if you are not solving their problem with your new direction, we can't be surprised if those clients don't come along for the ride.
That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, though, right?
Right, yeah.
It's not fun to lose clients. Nobody wants to lose clients. We're all business owners. We're trying to be here for the long term and make some money to put food on our table and our family. But the reality is you can't please everybody all the time. That's in business. That's in our personal lives as well. Converting clients isn't about squeezing more out of them. It's about staying aligned as their life and your business changes. Their pets are changing. They're aging. They're getting different conditions and need different specializations. Sometimes the most professional move you can make is saying, this isn't how we do care anymore.
And that may sound really cold. It does, right? This isn't how we do care anymore. But where it is this is the end point of a long road, of a long communication, of a long relationship, culminating in this isn't how we do care anymore. And that's, okay, you want the hour-long walk for your 16-year-old lab? This is not how we do care anymore. I used to offer boarding and overnights. I'm moving to drop-ins and daily dog walks. That's not how we do care anymore. Why? You always have to answer that and tie it into how it benefits the client, where this is going, where these convictions come from. Not word vomiting here, not going down those roads, but sticking to what you see, what you observe, linking together all of these strategies. It's not just showing up one day saying, everything I did previously was crap and horrible, and now I'm moving in this direction. No, bring your clients along for that. Educate them, talk to them, reach out to them, and build that bridge to where you are headed. All along, we're going to fully understand that not everybody's along for that. That's okay. We're not aligned anymore. They're not always for us. That's okay. We need to change and grow and adapt as best for us, our lives, and our clients too.
We hope that this episode has been helpful to you. And if it has, feel free to share it with a friend. You can also email us if you would like at petsitterconfessional@gmail.com or look us up on Facebook and Instagram at petsitterconfessional. Thank you for taking your time and listening to this. We appreciate you. We would also like to thank Pet Sitters Associates for sponsoring today's episode. We will talk with you next time.
Bye.